Um, dude, it was really weird today. So there's been like a lot of different stuff going on in our circles. It feels like kind of the internet's been changing a lot, and there's been different movements and kind of mimetic stuff happening, I think, in our circles. One of the things that kind of comes to mind is this whole interplay between like Gavin Newsom and JD Vance. That's very interesting because I think it's one of those things where JD Vance is everything that we don't want, right? He's everything that we don't want in a president. And I don't just say that to be like, dude, bro said iDubbbz is the inspiration. We're so good. No, listen, the old iDubbbz, right? Not the new stuff, not where he's boring, not where he's, not up to snuff. We're talking about the old and the gold, right? We're talking about the old gold content. We're talking about the good stuff, not the old, not the new crummy stuff, because he's not even funny anymore. It's like, I don't know. He cries all the time now, and he's like so cuckolded by his girlfriend that he's just not funny, And now she's going back to OnlyFans or something because she doesn't have any good content. But the thing with Vance versus Newsom, getting back on topic, is Vance represents everything that we don't want, right? If we thought that Trump was lame this time around, I mean, at least Trump could kind of rest on the laurels if he once represented something that we were all for and that we were all about. He doesn't have that anymore, right? He doesn't have that. And that's part of the tragedy of it, right? I mean, we voted for a guy who no longer exists. We voted for a guy who no longer is representing sort of our interests, what we're about, what's our MO, that sort of thing. And I think that's kind of the tragedy in really sort of this movement with Trump recently, right? It's like he's no longer the cool 2016 guy. It's no longer the mimetic 4chan esoteric memes and sort of like far right thought getting more integrated in the political mainstream. He's no longer this kind of Constantinian figure. He's just like a sad old man, right? But the difference with Trump versus JD Vance is Trump did once represent that for us. And that's why we looked up to him. That's why we thought so highly of him. That's why we tolerated a lot from him, right? But Vance was a never Trumper. I mean, Vance literally voted for Hillary Clinton, right? He voted for Clinton. He said that he would never support Trump and called, all Trump supporters Nazis and stuff like that. He was this hardcore anti-Trump guy. And then when he signed on with the ticket to be the vice president in the 2024 election, it's not that he became more based. It's not that he became more cool. It's not that he, suddenly woke up and decided to change his entire worldview. It's that Trump watered down the message. Trump watered down what we had originally voted him in for, right? And due to that fact, he no longer represents the sort of Iron Dawn that we had voted for. He's Zion Dawn, right? He's this guy who is no aura. He's old. I mean, the Republican Party's full of like, gay people and like Tom McDonald and, porn stars, all these things that we were fighting against, all these things that we were very against in voting for Trump, and that we were even tired with the old Republican Party. But I think Nick said it best when we were reviewing the RNC thing, right? When he was reviewing the RNC event, the Republican National Convention. The stuff that they let fly this past year would have never flown before, right? The stuff that they let fly during the RNC would have never flown before. Even in 2016, when the Republican Party could not be more rhino, the Republican Party could not be more, zogged up, more controlled at that point, right? Because of that, it fundamentally represented that it has shifted so far left that we're in kind of a similar position to Canada. There's no ostensible difference between the Conservative Party there and the Liberal Party there, and there's no ostensible difference between the Republican Party here and the Democrats anymore, really, right? I mean, both are pro-sodomy, both are pro-abortion. Republicans may pay a little bit more lip service to restricting immigration, but it's like, you know, Obama managed to deport more people than Trump, too. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things, even if they want to throw some bones, what they actually represent is not at all what we want to vote for and what we want to support. And a lot of people are out here being like, well, how could you not vote Vance? That doesn't make any sense. How could you not vote him? Well, how could I not vote for somebody who represents kind of the death knell of the Republican Party, right? How could I vote for someone who represents a compromise on every single value we have fought so hard for and that the whole Trump revolution was meant to be about? I mean, the populism, the sort of I'm trying to remember the term that Hillary Clinton used for us at that time, right? The undesirables, right? We were the undesirables. We were the underdog. And it was all because we supported actually right wing and conservative ideas. Now, JD Vance represents the death knell of that. He was a never Trumper, and now his establishment with Trump represents the death of the Republican Party. And so the only way we're going to get out of this is not by continuing to vote Republican. The only way we're going to get out of this is by continuing to support essentially supporting actually conservative ideas and drowning out the vote if they're not going to support what we are about. You're not going to get a victory for actually conservative, actually right-wing ideals, deplorables, thank you, not undesirables, deplorables. You're not going to get a conservative victory. You will never get a conservative victory if you're still voting for the people who represent the death knell of that, right? And so all these people who say, oh man, yeah, the Republican Party's cooked. It sucks. It's so horrible, blah, 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 right? But just keep voting them because we don't want the Democrats to win. Why? Why? What is the Republican Party going to do for us? I mean, JD Vance talked about expanding IVF. Is that pro-life? Right? He talked about, I'm going to get the normal gay vote. What does that mean? What? This dude claims to be Catholic. And he's saying all these things that make him sound like a Democrat from even 10 years ago. Forget 90s Democrat, a Democrat from 10 years ago. I mean, heck, Obama sounds more conservative in some clips than he does, right? So what do you get continuing to vote for someone like that? So the left doesn't win. Well, the left's already winning if you continue to vote for the guy who represents really everything they're about. Maybe driving at the speed limit, sure, but it's still going to end up in the same spot. Look, if I'm driving the speed limit to the same spot, I'm going to still end up in the same location, right? And that's how the Republican Party is. So people out here trying to shill and say, well, it sucks, but we just got to vote red or we're dead. No, I'm sorry. We're not doing that anymore. We have to drown out. We have to drown out the votes for the Republican Party. If they don't represent our ideals, we don't vote for them. It's just that simple. There is no reason to vote for people who do not represent the faith. There is no reason to vote for people that fail to represent actually right-wing and conservative ideas. There is no reason to vote for someone who's going to bring in a ton of H-1B migrants and replace all our jobs and still support mass immigration. It's still the same victory for the left. It's still the same victory. And so the Newsom 28, trolling and stuff like that is incredibly effective. Because you have all these MAGA boomers and stuff like that being like, they're the real party of homophobia. Call me Democrat then. Call me a Democrat at that point. Okay, oh, they're the real homophobic party? Okay, then I'm a Democrat now. Oh, they're the real, whatever you want to call them. I'm going to vote Democrat now, right? Guys, we're actually the real leftists. The thing is we're actually the real liberal party. We're the classical liberals. We're the 90s Democrats. Yeah, that's not what I voted for. I actually didn't vote for the 90s Democrats. I voted to have an actually conservative party in this country. And I didn't vote in 2016. I wasn't old enough, right? I was still a kid, right? I was like, I think it was 15 or something when the election happened. Yeah, it's 2016, so I was 15, right? But here's the thing with that. I did, at that point, join the Trump revolution. And because of that, I did vote for him in 2020 when I was old enough to vote. But the thing about it is that I saw the writing on the wall already after 2020, when the momentum slowed down, when there didn't seem to be anything that the right was offering besides, look, guys, Joe Brandon peed his pants. Isn't that crazy? Joe Brandon peed his pants, guys. Let's all laugh at him. Oh, bumbling Biden. Ha ha. Yeah, that's funny. Okay. Yeah, real hilarious. Oh, yeah, an old man is old. We're all clapping to that one. That's a funny bit, you know? What are you going to do for this country? What are you going to do for this country? What are you going to create for this country? Right? Nothing. You haven't done anything. You betrayed the very you don't understand. Vance is the crypto integralist. Yeah, that's so guys, he has Saint Augustine as his patron saint. You guys, you don't understand. He went to a Maronite parish once. That means he's a secret TLM goer, tradcath he's gonna usher in a whole revolution. Give me a break, dude. I mean, talk about fell for it again. And this is the other thing too. Look, there's guys who cover the political side of stuff. I'm not up to snuff on that. I don't follow the news as regularly as everyone else or what have you. But I am the theological guy. And I can say that as someone who does follow the theological side of politics, Catholics in this country need to stop being so easily baited by the Republican Party. Can we just say that? I mean, Catholics in this country are so like childish when it comes to sometimes being baited by the Republican Party. Like the Republican Party will just like put out like a little prayer thing and we're back, guys. We're back. Total Catholic victory. We're back. We had a victory. No, we didn't, dude. What are you talking about? There's still abortion going on. It's still Adam and Steve out there. There's people who hate our religion who are still controlling our government. Oh, but dude, Trump posted up next to Our Lady Guadalupe. We're so back, bros. Do you understand that do you understand that they understand that you are a voting block? And if they say and do the right things and they jingle the keys in front of you, look at the keys, right? They get your vote. They get your vote. That's how it works every single time, right? They get your vote, and then you're still baited into believing that they are going to do something for you when they don't care about you, dude. I mean, can we just establish that? They don't care about us. What was that old beef with Kendrick and Drake? They not like us? They're not like us, bro. Okay? I don't drink adrenochrome. They do. I'm not, they're on like Ozempic and adrenochrome. They're on some cocktail with Ozempic and adrenochrome, right? They are not like us. And the more you keep falling for their propaganda, the more you are going to be a good little foot soldier for people who don't care about Catholicism. Even if they convert, even if Marco Rubio, you see him posted up at Mass or whatever, it doesn't matter, dude. That's politics. That's what people do. That's what people do to win elections. That's what people do to, essentially like Calf Boy. I love Pinesap so much. I love you too, buddy. That's what people do to win elections, right? They go to a voting block that they know they can appeal to, and if they say and do all the right things, well, there you go. There's your voting block right there. You won the election. Happy now? Oh, I did all the right things. I won, guys. Right? They know how this works. They've known how this works for a long time, dude. They're not stupid. They're evil. Yeah, they're foolish, but they know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly what they're doing. Dude, that Trader Joe's green tea is so good. They know exactly what they are doing. And it's tough because, like, the boomer Catholics in this country, I'm a little bit more tolerant with because it's like, you're a boomer. Okay, you're old. You're not up to snuff. I know you're not reading theory and, digging on X all day or whatever. I get it, right? I'm more than aware. It happens. They're bless their heart. They're old. They're going to Cracker Barrel. Their biggest political victory is the Cracker Barrel logo shifted back. That's the biggest political victory that they're going to achieve. Yeah, you're right. You're right, Grandpa. The libtards are angry, so let's get you back to the retirement home. You know what? You're right, Grandpa. The libtards, total libtard destruction. The SJWs are destroyed. They're angry. Let's get you back to the retirement home. Look, they're an old generation. They don't get it, right? So I give them a little bit of a pass. But the amount of, and dude, honestly, millennials are the worst. I mean, every Gen Z Catholic I meet now gets it. They get a lot of things. I mean, look, you meet most Gen Z Catholics, it's like about 5 seconds, and then it's telekinesis. We all figure out we're on the same wavelength, right? There's a couple outliers, but most at least Gen Z Catholic men are on the same wavelength, at least in my experience, right? Type 2 Novus Ordo is a real thing. It's not even a bit. It's like actually a real thing, okay? Type 2 Novus Ordo goers, that is like a real actual phenomenon, right? So we're all squared up on that front, right? But we're all Gen Z, and that's why, right? We all get it. We're all up to snuff. We understand, who's really running things, what's really going on. Millennials are the worst. Millennials are so awful, dude. They are the most politically illiterate group I can see. And Catholicism, I'm not digging on you, bro. You're up to snuff. We love you. And we love Beardson too. Beardson's a millennial too. So this isn't all millennials, but this is a lot. This is a lot of millennials. And they're the same people you see on r/Catholicism or whatever being guys, I think the political rhetoric's been a little extremist recently. That's going to scandalize some liberals. Guys, is that really spreading the gospel, talking about conspiracy theories? Actually, it is. Actually, believe it or not, yeah, it is actually spreading the gospel. It is actually evangelization. But guys, you were mean to someone, and that's the worst sin. You were rude to a liberal, and that's the worst sin. Never forget that, right? And so it's one of those things where, the millennials watching, right? I know, I see you guys in the chat, okay? Listen, I'm not talking about you, okay? Not all millennials. I'm making a generalization. But the fact is that the reason I'm harsher on them is you grew up in the age of the internet, dude, okay? You grew up in the age of the internet. You're not like a boomer who it's like, the internet to you is still this magic box full of wires and electricity. It's like, the caveman first discovering fire, right? They're like, Gruk see wire box and libtards owned. And it's like, yes, go listen to your Tom McDonald, okay? Grandpa, we love you. Go listen to your Tom McDonald, all right? We love you. We appreciate you. Yes, total SJW victory. Go watch those 2017 SJW cringe compilations. We love you. But millennials grew up in an age where they should know better. There's really no excuse. You guys did grow up in an age where you should be literate when it comes to politics. And I don't mean that you have to be red-pilled or super knowledgeable on every single little nook and cranny of politics out there, right? Nobody is, right? Very few people are. But when we get to the heart of the matter, when we get to the heart of the matter, right? And we see everything going on. If you are not aware that someone like JD Vance is taking you along for a ride to get your vote, and that this whole performative escapade we saw during the 2024 election of, guys, he was talking about seed oils, we're so back. Oh, Vance was talking about seed oils, that's awesome. Patriots in control, right? If you don't see how that's performative, and that's how they win votes, and that's how they get your vote, and it enshrines a total Republican on the throne forever amongst, faithful Catholics, you're not seeing the bigger picture. You're not seeing the bigger picture. And so that's why the Newsom 28 meme is so effective. It rage baits these people. It gets these people to think. It gets these people to understand, we really are not a conservative party anymore. and that's a problem. And if the whole party has to burn down, so be it. If we have to start from square one again, start from scratch again, so be it. But that's what's got to happen for us to actually get a conservative reaction in this country. Because it's not been working with, I'm going to vote red or I'm dead. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. That has been what has been killing this country for 30, or heck, more than 30, like 40 to 60 years now. William F. Buckley, Ronald Reagan, all these guys, you know, they killed actual conservatism. You know, it's sad because people don't know. Let's look this guy up. I want you guys to do your homework on this dude. Listen, if you're not politically inclined, that's fine. I totally get it. Not everyone wants to read. You know me, I'm a big book guy. I love my books, dude. Books are my forte. I love books, but if you don't know who Joseph Sobran is, right? You need to read up on him. If you don't know who Samuel T. Francis is, you need to read up on him. If you don't know who, everyone should know Pat Buchanan. I mean, come on, right? But if you don't know who Pat Buchanan is, you need to read up on him. These were the guys, right? These were the guys who got kicked out of the right from Reagan and William F. Buckley. And there's a whole video I can do and make on that, and I plan on doing it because, you know, some people might say, well, how does this affect? I'm just Catholic, dude. I'm not interested in politics, whatever. This affects you actually a lot. William F. Buckley, with his victory in the American right, essentially ushered in a sort of watered down Catholicism in the American right. So when you see JD Vance and you see Marco Rubio, and yeah, they do the photo shoot at Mass. They go to Mass, they do the photo shoot, you see them praying. Oh, base guys, they go to Mass, they're a Mass-going Catholic, their kids go to a Catholic school, right? That's William F. Buckley conservatism. That's William F. Buckley conservatism. That's the photo shoot, it looks all pretty, it looks all nice, but guess what? They don't support any Catholic values. You want to ban contraception? Never going to happen with them. You want to limit, you want to limit the prevalence of homosexuality in our society? Not going to happen. Zip, zero. They're actually probably going to vote against it. You want to stop abortion and be pro-life? Forget about it. They are never going to give you pro-life victory. Emperor Milk said it in chat. It's performative. It's performative Catholicism. It's Catholicism that looks really nice on a bumper sticker, looks really nice on a sign in St. Louis, right? Looks really good in a TV advertisement or a YouTube ad. It's not real, okay? It's not real. These people don't actually represent the faith in politics. These people don't actually go out of their way to represent a Catholic ethos in American politics. Do you know why? Because they kicked all the actually Catholic dudes out. They said, you're offensive, you're incorrect, you're, anti, certain group and stuff like that. You can't be in politics anymore. Sorry, we're going to actually write a book about you, slandering you and dragging your name through the mud so that people won't read your books. And you have to go to conferences in the early 2000s and 90s that are like barely attended and stuff like that. You have great ideas, but we've basically locked you out of the establishment. That's who won the American right. The gatekeepers. And what's funny is James Lindsay, I never know. I think it's James Lindsay and Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro and all these guys that you loathe so much represent that reaction to actual conservatism. And Pat Buchanan's such a likable guy. Look, they'll sometimes throw a bone his way. They'll be like, yeah, maybe, I'm trying to remember Pat Buchanan's book off the top of my head. think it's Death of the West. I was starting to get, yeah, Death of the West. Okay, I did remember it correctly. I want to make sure that wasn't Spangler's book, that I was conflating it with, Oswald Spengler's Decline of Western Civilization. But yeah, The Death of the West, right? Classic. Most actually conservative people that's on their bookshelf and stuff like that. I actually still need to buy it, but I do have his book on World War II, and that's a very good one, right? So they'll throw a bone our way. They'll say, yeah, Pat Buchanan's a pretty good guy, and he had some good things to say, and XYZ and ZYX and all that kind of stuff, right? All that pretty stuff. But here's the thing. Okay? They don't represent, and they will never actually allow for a true conservative reaction. If Pat Buchanan tomorrow, which, he's too old at this point, right? But if Pat Buchanan was 20 years younger and he was running for, Senate, Congress, whatever, right? A political office, they would give him the Thomas Massey treatment. They would give him the Thomas Massey treatment in a heartbeat like that. They'd be like, this guy's evil. He doesn't shield for Israel. He's not, really with the interests and stuff like that. We're going to gatekeep him out. We're actually going to try and replace his seat with someone who's more up to snuff with what our party wants. That's the treatment he would receive. So again, he's old enough now that and he doesn't need this treatment. He's a sharp man for his age, right? But yes, Grandpa, we love conservatism too. Okay, so go back to your corner. Grandpa, yes, we love Russell Kirk too. Russell Kirk is awesome. We're not going to repeat his comments about, conservatives confuse the capital of America with Tel Aviv versus Washington, D.C. We're going to knock that one out. But, we'll wheel you back to, you've lived a long life. You helped Reagan out. We love Reagan, right? That's what it is. And so all this is to say is that if you want a Republican Party that represents the heavy lifting and the sacrifice that, again, Joseph Sobran, Pat Buchanan, Samuel T. Francis, Russell Kirk, actually conservative voices in this country fought, bled, and died for, you can't vote JD Vance. If you vote JD Vance, you are only resurrecting the ghost of William F. Buckley. Look at this lizard person right here on my screen. That's whose ghost you're resurrecting if you vote for Vance. This slimy, fake conservative who locked out any actually Catholic politics in this country. That's who you're voting for if you vote JD Vance. His ghost and Ronald Reagan and Bill Kristol, because I think Bill Kristol passed away, right? I don't know. I'm not a political guy, but Bill Kristol, all those guys, all the neocons that you hate so much and you loathe so much, guess whose ghost haunts the Republican Party with JD Vance? And you know what? It's even worse than that, because we're going to watch a little video. I'm actually curious real quick. Let me see if, Chad Champion did make a great video on JD Vance and the Thiel Network. Let me see. Did he post it on Rumble? I got to give him a shout out for that video. That was a really good one. Let me see here. Because, dude, if it's on Twitter, man, I hate pulling up Twitter on browser, but I'll do it. It's worth seeing. It's a good video. It's a good video. We gotta give credit where credit's due. Chad Champion, Thiel Network. No way! Okay, he uploaded on YouTube. Let's go. Let's flip and go, dude. That's what we're talking about. Irving Kristol is Bill's dad. Thank you, House Leotardo. And here's the thing. Like I say, I said this before, and someone once, confronted me. They're like, "Well, why don't you do the thinking for yourself or whatever?" I don't need to. Nick has got me in terms of politics. It's something I gave up on a long time ago because here's the thing. It's like I don't want to read news articles all day unless it involves the church. Like I'll read, Catholic news agency articles, the Pillar, whatever, till I'm blue in the face, and I'll do the reporting on you guys for that side. But I'm not interested in reading like MSNBC or trying to like figure out these networks or whatever. I'm gonna leave that to the experts. All I want to do is act as a conduit for that information in a Catholic context. Because I think that's important, right? What we have to do is we have to take that information and synthesize it for a Catholic audience because I've got my feet kind of in both worlds, right? I mean, there's some people who are not groypers who follow what I do and stuff like that. And, I want them, even though they should be groypers, but even though they're not, I want them to watch a stream like this. I want them to watch a video that I make and come away with it and inform people in their parish, people in their community, not because I said it, right? Anyone can say it, but so that we can make Catholics in America, faithful Catholics in America, knowledgeable about what's going on. Because the biggest problem that I have in the life of the church today is there are a lot of Catholics who are really, really good people, salt of the earth. I would give them the shirt off my back, but man, do they not understand politics. And they see like a virtue in that. And that's really not virtuous. Look, there is a lot of virtue in not gorging yourself on the news all day or having your hope be bound up in certain political candidates, but there's not a virtue in being naive. We have to do away with that myth in America because we have kind of we have adopted, right, this ethos. We've adopted this idea that in order to be a faithful Catholic in America, you just need to like tune out and you need to not listen and you need to not concern yourself with politics. And that's stupid, dude. That's absolutely stupid. You do have to concern yourself with politics. Politics affects the life of the church, whether you like it or not. And we're called to be stewards of politics in this country. If we're not stewards of politics, dude, we're just messing around. We're just wasting time. We're just wasting our breath and we're not doing anything to affect this country. And so we have to concern ourselves with politics. It is one of the biggest concerns we should have. Right? Now, if you're a monk, Scholasticus said this in chat. If you're a monk, yeah, you support all the right ideas, but yeah, you're not going to be reading the news or what have you. But I see a lot of these dads. I see a lot of these like fathers and stuff like that. They're just like, I don't like politics and politics is lame. Well, politics isn't done with you, my brother. I get focusing on the home, but this like Rod Dreher Benedict option crap where it's like, I'm just going to tune out. Society's effed. Society's screwed. I'm just going to tune out. I'm not going to concern myself with politics or what have you. Politics is going to concern itself with you. And when it does that, it's not going to be pretty. It's going to be pretty violent and horrible. Right? So you have to get politically involved. Even if it's at the lowest, even if it's just trying to educate people. And I don't mean in like a weird autistic red pill way. Do you know who's really running everything? Do you know who's really, I don't mean being weird at Thanksgiving, right? But what I do mean is telling someone about like the Thiel Network and being like, yo, Peter Thiel is a gay guy who hates the church. He hates Catholicism. He literally says that 80% of our cardinals are gay. That's just straight up a lie and a slander from Mossad. Right? Why are you going to support a candidate fielded by a gay guy who's slandering the church and who hates Catholicism and gives lectures on the Antichrist when he's like the forerunner to the Antichrist? I'm not saying you need to go into the minutia. That's not a concern. Most people aren't concerned with that. Most people are just focused on getting through their day, right? But at least cover the basics. At least try to explain these things to people. Because listen, Epstein list, that gets deep. That's a whole rabbit hole you can go down. Like all the stuff Mouthy Buddha has done with it and all, exposing Pizzagate and all that kind of stuff, which I'm glad to know he's Catholic. He's a great guy. I love that guy, right? You can go down a rabbit hole with the Epstein list. But most people, the average person you talk to, still knows enough about it to be like, Epstein's a bad dude and there's something going on. That should be the same reaction with the Thiel Network. You don't have to be like super esoteric and, forwarding a bunch of Rumble videos to people or whatever. I'm not asking for that. Nobody is, right? Most people aren't going to watch those. But make people aware of the basics so that they can approach politics in the truly Catholic way. Because this cozying up to the Republican Party, dude, it's got to stop. I mean, goodness gracious, man. So many people's hearts are in the right places. But if I have to hear one more time, it's like, no, Trump's like actually our guy and he cares about us. Trump doesn't care about you, dude. He's on his third divorce and he's on the list. He's on the list, dude. He doesn't care about you. He's not Catholic. Right? It's funny. Like in the debate with Mehdi, that was the one thing we agreed on. Well, he's not Catholic. Yeah, you're preaching the choir, pal. Yeah, for sure. Trump is not a faithful Catholic. He doesn't care about Catholicism at all. He cares about it in so much as he can get a vote out of you. He doesn't need to do that now because he's gotten elected. But who are we kidding ourselves when we pretend like these people who are trying to win an election actually care about our faith, right? And look, here's the thing. You can care about the faith in a way where you're not directly Catholic. I'll give you a good example, like Dusty Devers, right? Dusty Devers, great, he's Baptist, right? He's not exactly where we want him to be, but he wants to ban pornography. He thinks premarital sex is awful. He wants to base our government on biblical values and stuff like that, right? That's what it's all about. So we would be stupid to not support someone like Dusty Devers because he's a good guy. He represents most of our interests, right? Joel Webbin. I mean, Joel Webbin's not running for any office, but like, I'll march with Joel Webbin in a pro-life rally or a pro-family rally any day of the frickin' week, man. He's a good guy. And those are the kinds of alliances that we need to make. Some of these hardcore, like Christian nationalist dudes who are Protestant, yeah, it's cringe. They're not Catholic, right? They need to become Catholic. But you got to make those alliances. Dusty Deepers? No, Dusty Devers. Listen, we ain't being sussy on this channel. Sometimes I can get a little zesty. We're not being zesty, right? We're being real for a moment. Dusty Devers, right? You can't be unwilling to make these alliances. Because a lot of people, and I get really annoyed at this. When I say I like want to make this nation Catholic, people think it's like, oh, tomorrow Pinesap's like there's got to be a trad Cath monarch or whatever. I'm under no illusions, dude. I know the state of this nation. I know what it's like. However, what I do think can happen, and what I do think is very real, is a Caesar type figure and a post-liberal republic. Look, we've seen it all across the West. We've seen it in Poland. We've seen it in El Salvador. And yeah, I know those governments are zogged up and stuff like that. That's a huge problem. It's not the exact ideal we want. But look at Hungary. Look at Poland. Look at, I mean, you can even kind of take a page a little bit from Putin's Russia, right? Look at El Salvador. Look at just a few of those nations. Even, I mean, Malaysia, Argentina, and kind of cringe. But, people see kind of a Caesar type figure in these people, right? They see a Caesar. They see a strong man who represents their political interests, who represents everything that they're about. And because of that, this is someone who speaks with the voice of the people and speaks for an actually right-wing interaction with our society, an actually right-wing response in our society. They're not perfect. They're very zogged out. That's a huge problem. That's gotta go. That's gotta go. That can't belong, right? I'm not saying they're perfect, but the fact that even they had victories means it is very real that we can have that kind of response in America, minus the Israel stuff, minus the control of Judaism over our government, right? It's very workable. It's very real, but We have to be willing to make the right alliances, and we have to be willing to politic in the right way. Otherwise, we're just going to sputter out. And so, anyhow, I've been yapping for a long time, but let's get into this JD Vance Thiel Network video Chad Champion made.
All right, imagine you're a Zionist billionaire trying to take over politics. How would you do that? Well, first, you need a crew. You need a thought leader, the brains behind the operation, preferably a fat, dysgenic, ugly Jewish retard. This is Curtis Yarvin. Second, you're going to need your agent, the man on the street, the front to your Zionist operation. This is JD Vance. Last, you need your mastermind, the man who puts together the crew, funds the operation, and is the man behind the mission. This is Peter Thiel. Curtis Yarvin is a computer programmer turned professional yapper philosopher. His early life was spent abroad living in Cyprus. His father, Herbert Yarvin, worked in the United States Foreign Service. Side note, for anybody who doesn't know, that's State Department talk for being a spy or United States agent. The Foreign Service, that's exactly what that is. You literally are a spy. To add on to his family history, his father was Jewish, his grandparents were Jewish, and they were also active in the American Communist Party. Curtis Yarvin went to Brown University, then got his PhD at UC Berkeley in computer science. After college, Curtis Yarvin goes on to work in several tech companies in the late 90s and throughout the 2000s. Silicon Valley is where he would meet people like Peter Thiel and JD Vance. In the late 2000s, Curtis Yarvin starts blogging underneath the name Mencius Moldbug in the new popular genre of NRX, otherwise known as neo-reactionary thought. Okay, if you're underneath the age of 50...
Wait. We just gotta go back.
NRX.
Dude, that gut's crazy.
Otherwise known as neo-reaction.
Listen, I'm a big guy myself. I'm working on that. But that gut is crazy. I'm not trying to be mean to this guy, but bro literally looks like he's on like 3 months of HRT. Can we just be honest? Like, bro looks like he's like 3 months in. Like, I'm waiting for like the Reddit post where we just have this clipped out, and it's like, what a beautiful trans woman, dude. Look at this beautiful trans woman right here. She is so brave, dude. She is so brave. The dude literally looks like he's trans. That's actually insane.
Thought. Okay, if you're underneath the age of 50, this was like the precursor to the alt-right. They were attacking mainstream political thought from the right. Curtis Yarvin skewed from the alt-right. He often declared them as stupid Nazis and criticized their quote-unquote peasant belief of anti-Semitism. NRX's main ideas were challenging democracy. If you boil it down, it's surface-level minarchism. They made the outrageous discovery that democracy is bad. This defines Curtis Yarvin's ideology, that the government should be run like a corporation, with the CEO as the head of the government. Peter Thiel funds Curtis Yarvin so he can promote, write, and make appearances on media platforms, shilling this 50 IQ ideology. The main thing to take away from Curtis Yarvin is he presents himself and is regarded...
It's like actually insane because he didn't used to look like this bad. Like if we look up like Curtis Yarvin young, he didn't used to look this bad. No, that's not him young, dude. Give me a break. Come on. That's him younger. He doesn't look bad there. But okay, guy looks a little cooked. He doesn't look great. He looks like... So there's this town in Colorado called Breckenridge, and it's like where all the like hippies from the 60s, like the hippie retirees went to live. He does look like a guy who would try to like have like a crystal shop, but then there would be some pipes in the back that don't really look like pottery. It looks like they're used for some recreational, recreational smoking or what have you, right? He looks like the kind of guy who'd be like working the counter at one of those places. But bro looks like a normal man here, right? He looks like a normal guy. Like if I saw him on the street, I wouldn't be like, that guy's a freak or something like that. He looks like someone said chopped but not yet cooked. I would agree with that. He looks kind of a little bit like a nerd, but he's not like awful. What is this, bro? I mean, it's like I can't tell what he's trying to go for. Are we going for like divorced dad, or are we going for like I'm 3 months into estrogen? He's like a weird like mix between the two. It's like, are we trying to go for like I'm trying to be trans, or I'm like a divorced dad and I listen to like, Stained and what's the band that everyone has been listening to recently? Oh my goodness, Creed, right? Creed. I don't know what he's trying to go for here, dude. Like this is bad. Like we got the Che Guevara graphic tee or whatever. Like this is awful.
As a right-wing intellectual, but his ideology isn't even right-wing or even conservative. It simply furthers him and his Silicon Valley associates.
Clarence, bro,
JD
that's
Vance is a
crazy.
freshman senator from the state of Ohio. On its face, JD Vance looks like your average right-wing patriot. Beard, sleeves rolled up, from the Midwest, supports Trump. But all these features are a part of a larger crafted facade. JD Vance is anything but these things. While being born in Ohio, he has spent most of his time in Silicon Valley. Vance first attended Ohio State, then he went to Yale, one of the most prestigious colleges.
Someone said in chat, Adam said the Slavoj Žižek dirty philosopher is his aesthetic. Okay, here's the thing about that. When you pull it off, it actually looks kind of cool because, look, there is kind of a weird. I know the exact character I'm thinking of. Look, there's a weird kind of like charm to being like L from Death Note. Like, you don't really care about your physical appearance. You're like, more concerned with what's going on up here. You're like mapping out, I don't know, Hyperborea or whatever in your head. Like every time you think it looks like a Hyperborea edit, or it looks like the Oppenheimer, like the atoms connecting and stuff like that, that's fine. There's two things to pull off that aesthetic, right? I know I'm one to be talking, but we're working on that. You can't be fat, right? That's one. You can't be fat. Like, look, bro is skinny. He looks good, like naturally. And the other thing is too, you have to have like some kind of aura to you. You have to have this like beautiful mind aura where what you maybe lack in like social interaction or like otherwise dressing up, you make up for in the fact that like you have a beautiful mind. Like people like want to look into your soul. Like every single time someone looks at you, they think that man is thinking things that I wish I could just have a window looking into his brain right now. Like every single time you like look into that guy's eyes, you're like, he is, pause, right? We're not being sussy, but like every single time you like look at that person, you're like, that dude is a deep thinker, right? That dude is a deep thinker. Whatever Yarvin's up to, he's not pulling that off. I mean, bro's overweight, and even if he just got a better haircut and like lost some weight, maybe he would then look better. But the like overweight, like graphic tee thing, you just look like a lazy douche. You just look like a lazy douchebag. Like you just look like you don't care and you don't want to be there. Like there's a certain look to not caring that is still like charming, right? He doesn't have any of the charm. And I think it's kind of the way you dress. Like generally I notice like sometimes some hoodies look good, some like kind of long sleeves like L has or whatever, that looks good. But the just like dressing in a graphic tee and like looking like a divorced dad, that's not a good look.
In America. After college, Vance moved to San Francisco, where he worked in venture capital under Peter Thiel's investment firm, Minthrel Capital. Running theme you can see with all these members within this influence operation is they're all liberals, they're all from Silicon Valley, and they all worked with Peter Thiel in tech. JD Vance then entered the political scene with his book, Hillbilly Elegy. Known as the voice of middle America, or the Trump whisperer, because a fat white-collar Yale graduate understands your average guy. In the book Hillbilly Elegy, he references several times that middle American whites are envious, and especially they're envious of Obama because he's smart, well-educated, and well-spoken. He also on several occasions said Obama was admirable and a great man. Throughout 2016, JD Vance was a never-Trumper, constantly criticizing Trump, not even voting for him. In 2016, JD Vance voted for Evan McMullen, a CIA agent who ran in the 2016 election as a third party. In 2022, he completely reversed his positions for a Senate run. With funding from Peter Thiel, he came out vocally in support of Trump and was regarded by the media as one of the most right-wing Republicans. Then he changed his appearance, donning flannels for his campaign. He grew out a beard, just to show how in touch he is with your average person. JD Vance is especially dangerous because of his unequivocal support for the belligerent state of Israel. He recently spoke at the Quincy Institute, an anti-war foundation. There, in light of Israel committing a genocide in Gaza and alienating itself and the United States from the world, he said, "It is actually America first to support Israel's genocide in Gaza, and we should fully support and aid Israel's genocide against the Palestinians." To summarize JD Vance, he is the Trojan horse of this Zionist Silicon Valley operation. He parades around as a hillbilly Trump supporter. He is the so-called voice of white America while being a tech bro married to an Indian with Indian kids. JD Vance poses a genuine threat because he is one of the top choices to be on Trump's ticket in 2024. And with this power, he'll be able to hire more people just like him to subvert the right wing.
I mean, that's the whole thing. It's like JD Vance was grown in a lab, right? JD Vance doesn't have a personality of his own. He's changed his name like 3 different times. Hillbilly Elegy is like one of the weirdest books I've ever heard to. I mean, he literally like goes up to Mima or whatever and he's like, "I think I'm gay." And she's like, "Honey child, you're not gay because like," or actually no, she doesn't even say that. She's like, "Honey child, listen, whatever freaky liberal Baptist belief I have, like being gay is okay, sweetie, okay? You ain't gonna burn because you're gay." And I'm like, what are we doing here, dude? Is this entire book about just posting your L's? Like, you hate being white and you're gay? That's like a crazy self-report. Like, okay, I would have more respect for JD Vance if he wrote like some ridiculous crap in the book. Like he was like, "Yeah, and then there was this like one time where I saved a school bus full of children and I was in the military and I saved my entire platoon from throwing a grenade back at the enemy when they threw," like some crap like that, right? Like if he made up cool stories, I would respect him more than just posting his L's that openly. Like, here's the thing. There's being vulnerable because when you're vulnerable, you're vulnerable as if to make a point of like, I'm not doing this thing anymore, or like I've changed, or like this is what I'm struggling with, but I'm working towards something better. Right? Like that's a very important value to me. Like I've always tried to be vulnerable with you guys. I've always tried to be just like straight up and being like, "Hey, I don't want to pretend to be like a model Catholic or anything like that. I struggle. I put my, pants on one leg at a time and, my shoes on one string at a time. For some reason I have one string shoes. That's kind of weird, but I don't try to pretend to be anything that I'm not, right? Now that's not to be like, "Oh, I'm so humble" or something like that, but like when you're vulnerable, you admit your faults, but you say that as if I need to become better. I need to be different. I need to become better than I am now. I realize I have some faults. I realize I have some things that aren't perfect, and I want to become better as a result, right? That's being vulnerable. I think St. Augustine was vulnerable in Confessions, and that's why that book made Western civilization. I mean, he was just real. He didn't pretend to be something that he was not. JD Vance is not vulnerable in Hillbilly Elegy. He's just gay. Like he's just posting his L's the entire time. And it's one of those things where every single time he gets into some new weird thing in his life in that book, it's like not so much as to say like I struggled with this thing and here's how I got over it, right? It's as if to say like it's good that I have this L. It's good that I went to Mima and thought I was gay or that I hate white people. Where's the like where's the joy in that, dude? Like, I'm looking at you like you've got two heads. You're a freak. You know, I don't admire that in the slightest. Again, I would prefer if you just made up some silly story about how like you saved your entire platoon in the Marines or whatever. Or, you know, you like lifted a car single-handedly off a child that it ran over, right? Posting that you're gay for 300 pages is just an L. That's all it is. It's not being vulnerable. It's just being literally like a homo, you know? I can't respect that, dude. That's crazy. When is Dasha coming on stream? Dude, I can't stand that chick. Dasha, I'm gonna just say Dasha, like Mrs. Dash, you know, the seasoning that like your mom used when, you know, she'd make chicken growing up or whatever, right? Mrs. Dash, Dasha. Um, she is so annoying. She is so annoying because she became like Catholic, like I think like a year or two ago. And it's one of those things every single time I've seen her like write anything about Catholicism, it is like the most milk toast, like you do not know what you're talking about right now. Like she's trying to be like a trad or something, but it's like she read like one headline from one article 5 years ago about how Vatican II's bad or whatever, and suddenly she thinks she's a regular old Saint Catherine. She thinks she's a regular old, you know, Saint Edith Stein, right? Like she's gonna write these tomes on theology. She knows nothing. I mean, she gave one of like the worst takes I've ever heard on like the mass and the life of the church, and I'm like, can you just shut up? Like, I don't want to listen to your your awful take. Go to mass, get pregnant. What are you, like 30 or something? It's like, go get pregnant, go have a kid. I'm literally like with Dasha, I'm literally like that character from Smiling Friends where, you know, Pip bumps into me. I'm like, "Oh dude, what the fuck, man? Dude, you're so old. Where are you? Where's your kids? Where's your husband? Go find your kids, bro." And like everyone at the party's laughing. That's how I am to Dasha, dude. Like you're old. Like you don't know what you're talking about, right? Don't try to pretend to be something you're not. Let's see, her Jay Dyer debate. Dude, I disavow. Like she does not represent Catholicism at all. Like literally disavow that video. And again, like Dyer, like I don't have any beef with Dyer, but let's be honest. Dyer chooses people that he knows he can like easily dunk on or whatever, or don't know their faith or something like that, because he just wants to win every debate he's in. When someone actually comes to him and they know their faith, it's miserable for him. He loses. But you know, when someone like kind of, you know, like her just says these like out of pocket things, they look dumb, right? That's why Tim Gordon won. Still haven't watched that debate, by the way, but that's why Tim Gordon won, dude. So she's a Bobby Altoff of Con Inc. Yeah, that's so real, dude.
Peter Thiel is the nucleus and creator of the Zionist Network. He is a venture capitalist, co-founding companies like PayPal, Palantir, the Founders Fund, and he was the angel investor for Facebook. Peter Thiel is almost worth $10 billion. The best way to understand Peter Thiel is to simply just listen to him.
You want to be a one-of-a-kind company where it's the only one in a small ecosystem. You don't want to be the 4th online pet food company. You don't want to be the 10th thin film solar panel company. You don't want to be the 100th restaurant in Palo Alto. Your restaurant industry is a $1 trillion industry. So if you do a market size analysis, you conclude restaurants are a fantastic business to go into. And it's often large markets, large existing markets typically mean that you have tons of competition, very, very hard to differentiate. So the first very counterintuitive idea is to go after small markets, often markets that are so small people don't even notice them. They don't think that they make sense. That's where you get a foothold. And then if those markets are able to expand, you can scale into a big monopoly business.
Here, Thiel states how to create a monopoly. You must start.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest. I love F. Dude, F, I don't know who you are. You have to let me know you're at or whatever from Twitter. You're like cracking me up. I'm reading the live chat right now. You're like, I like Dasha's voice. It's so soothing. It's like ASMR. I don't know. I don't know if F's like a Chad Champion head or something, but bro's cracking me up. Well, not that that would be a bad thing. I say that as a good thing. But like, I don't know, bro's cracking me up. I'm like reading the live chat right now. He's been great this entire episode. So, guys, let me know in chat if I should make F him on. I'm kind of thinking about it.
Are in a small market, dominate that market, then expand. You could use this practice in, I don't know, maybe supporting early on and speaking at the RNC for an up-and-coming radical presidential candidate, or funding several niche online creators like Bronze Age Pervert.
Bro, I'm sorry for distracting. Dude, don't apologize. Be who you are, dude. Okay, here's the thing. You come to a Pinesap stream, I want you to be who you are. I want you to be funny. I want you to be silly. I want you to be sussy, dude. Bust it down sussy style, okay? I want you to be sussy. I want you to be silly. That's what we're about here. That's the thing. Like, when I started getting into live streaming, the one thing that I couldn't stand about like some like Catholic content creators, and I'm not saying I do this like perfectly or whatever, is just how like a lot of them can't be real and like joke. You know what I mean? It's always got to be this like, welcome to the Tweed cast. We're talking about is the Novus Ordo bad? You know, thumbnails like that, them doing this. And it's like, if you make like, I don't know, like a sussy joke with your boys, or, you know, you're being funny or something like that, it's like they just can't take a joke. You know, like, it's like, be funny, be funny, like cut loose. Don't be so like uptight and serious all the time. You know what I mean? Like, whoever said you can't be traditional, you can't be a faithful Catholic, and you have to be like just like dead as a doorknob. Like, you have to just be like deadpan, no laughter, no fun. Well, one time I made quite the zinger down at the wife guy convention. Everyone laughed. It was a knock joke. It's like, you know, I'm just kidding. We're just joking around. But it's like, dude, I don't like that. That's not how I am. That's not my humor. That's been my problem with dating too, dude. Like, I don't know, like sometimes I've like met some of these like Catholic girls, and like they're sweet as can be. You know, God bless them. They're wonderful and stuff like that. But it's like, they're just like, they can't have fun. Like, they can't like joke or whatever. They act like if you like joke, it's like, you know, I've just, you know, committed another 9/11 or something like that. It's like, just have some fun, just laugh. And I mean good, clean fun. I don't mean anything gross. I don't mean anything wrong or immoral, but it's like, can we really not like laugh and cut up a little bit? You know what I mean? All right, I'm modding F, dude. I got sugar high off 10 Smarties right now. Dude, that's crazy, dude. Bro got like sugar high off 10 Smarties. Okay. And let's see here. F is now a moderator. I love this guy. But yeah, you got to be willing to joke, bro. If you're not willing to joke and stuff like that, it's too much. I don't know. It's like, I always feel like those are the guys who, it's like, they'll make such a big deal about like joking, but then like you learn like they're doing like a really bad thing behind the scenes. You know what I mean? Like, it's like like my whole thing is like, I don't sweat the small stuff, man. Like, if you're sinning or whatever, let's have a conversation about that and let's shut that down. But it's like making a joke or whatever, come on. You know, it's not a big deal.
Fascist bodybuilder, who is a Jewish Zionist, and also everyone who associates with him in the Sovereign House.
Hold on. Boy's got some milk. That's crazy, dude. That's crazy. I mean, bro's got some like A cups going on. That's crazy. And he's got the gunt too, dude. That's insane. That is a crazy build right there.
Who is a Jewish Zionist, and also everyone who associates with him in the Sovereign House. Or you could fund a plethora of political candidates in the 2022 midterms like JD Vance, Blake Masters, and former CIA agent Joe Kent. Or funding a autistic homeless intellectual like Curtis Yarvin, so we can promote your ideology that promotes with your business practices and your Zionist beliefs. Or you could start and fund the Stanford Review with Bill Kristol, son of Irving Kristol, another Jewish Zionist. The Stanford Review is a right-wing news platform.
Okay, wait, that's crazy. I get he's his dad, right? Like, you know, your parents look a little like you, but like, bro, straight up, I'm not even kidding. Not Peter Thiel, but
the Stanford Review with Bill Kristol.
Bill Kristol, look at his face right here.
Of Irving Kristol.
And then look at bro, they literally took his face and like copy and pasted it. It's like if I use the Adobe Photoshop, like, cut function, and I like put it on his body. That is insane. Like I've heard about like looking like your parents before, but like bro straight up looks like a carbon copy of his dad, and it's like uncanny.
Another Jewish Zionist. The Stanford Review is a right-wing news platform at one of the most elite universities in America. Thiel is dominating all of these small political markets. Your average person would overlook these, but altogether it is one big, powerful propaganda machine. Peter Thiel is unlike most political donors. He is carving out a share in the American right on all levels: media outlets, political candidates, intellectuals, social media influencers. Thiel has funded and created a bottom-up influence network that rivals anything that has ever been achieved. Because of his prior...
Said bottom. That's crazy for talking about Thiel, bro. That's crazy. Talking about bottoms and Thiel, dude, that's insane. That's kind of crazy, though.
Experience in tech, he understands how to make a dominant political monopoly. This next part is the most alarming about this whole network. Palantir, Peter Thiel's company that operates in intelligence and contracts with the United States government. Palantir specializes in tech, AI, and communication. This is all jargon for being a CIA-fed company. In light of October 7th, Palantir announced they would hire more Jews to Palantir to combat anti-Semitism. The Palantir connection is worrying because of the business they operate in. They are an intelligence company who works for the United States government, run by a Zionist ideologue, and staffed by Jewish Zionists. Now I will pose a doomsday situation which might become reality. Peter Thiel is friends with Sam Altman. Yes, OpenAI Sam Altman. Matter of fact, Sam Altman was the one who introduced Peter Thiel for the video I showed earlier.
Peter was the founder of PayPal and Palantir and Founders Fund, and has invested in most of the tech companies in Silicon Valley. And he's going to talk about strategy and competition. Thank you for coming, Peter.
Awesome. Thanks. Sam, thanks for inviting me.
Sam Altman is Jewish. He regards Peter Thiel as a mentor.
Dude, the way that he said that, Sam Altman is Jewish. It's like, that was a crazy delivery.
And a great friend, and they have collaborated on projects in the past. OpenAI recently announced a partnership with Apple so they can collect data and create a more efficient Siri AI. Now imagine a Zionist network having complete access to your Apple devices and constantly listening in on you. They could use this power to dominate American politics for 1,000 years. Partnered with AI, this is too much concentrated power in malicious hands.
Those that can master the technology will master capital. Those that master capital then generate the political change. They are the kind of disruptive political element. It matters quite a bit, actually, that the people that are programming the AI hate whites.
There we go.
Pretty scary stuff. You can hate whites for kind of anything, but if you hate whites and you run AI, they could kill all white people. They literally could do that. A rogue, woke POC, whatever, could kill all white people with artificial intelligence and robotics. It's a different world. People don't understand the danger. So it's very similar to, if you saw Oppenheimer, it's like the prospect of like the Nazis getting the nuclear bomb. This is like, we can't let the Jews control AI. I fear that they will, though.
To summarize Peter Thiel and this network, he is the godfather and founder of this new emerging right, which is trying to replace America First and Donald Trump.
Dude, Owen John said in chat, the old studio. I know, man. I know. I gotta say, I do get nostalgic for the old studio. It's weird. I'm a nostalgia guy. I love nostalgia. I'm like nostalgic for everything. Like, dude, those slop, like, I think some people call it slop, but like those like POV, you're growing up in 2008 and you just got home from the school bus and it's winter or whatever. I eat those videos up like nobody's business, dude. I love those videos. Like they just touch a part of my heart. But I'll say this, right? I do love Nick's new background way better. I think it's very, very professional. I think that the new studio is way better. It's not that the old background was bad. It served its purpose, but like the new studio looks great. And I think it communicates really sort of the professionalism that Nick's trying to go for. I mean, honestly, like it's weird. I not that I'm not trying to copy Nick or whatever, but I hope one day, maybe I could like rent out an office space or what have you to kind of have like a nicer looking studio. I'm working with what I got right now, but I think even just having the green screen is kind of a little bit of an upgrade from what I did have before because, that's the thing. It's like as I get older, when you're like 18 or 19 or whatever, like you can kind of get away with like some stuff of not being like the most professional or what have you, but like really I got is there a super chat link for the stream? Oh, sure. Yeah. I can send you the link. I'm not trying to just shill the super chat stuff or anything like that. Here, let me send it to you though. I'll post it in chat. Thanks for asking, brother. Anyhow, back on topic. We're getting in a stage now where there's more eyes on us, right? And after, all the Jubilee stuff or whatever went down, like this is a new era and this is something that we need to take very seriously and we need to approach content in a different way, right? It was one thing when we were in the past and we were a little bit more rough and tumble and not so put together and that sort of thing. And that's all fine and well, right? That's all fine and well, but this is a new era. And I think that we need to bring about a sort of greater presentation to our content. We need to work harder. We need to make better quality content or what have you. And look, dude, it's tough for me. I'm the kind of guy, if there was a magic button I could press and I could just go on a rant and it could perfectly edit it or whatever, I'd be the first person to sign up for that tech. But I don't have that. So I need to work on my skills to like, kind of improve things, improve the streaming or what have you. And I think marginally it's gotten better, but it's going to continue to get better. We need to all work to create better and more high quality content. Because if we're not doing that, we just kind of stagnate and we fall into what any other group like the alt-right or whatever happened, whatever happened to them, right? I mean, they were paywalled on TRS. Their content stayed the exact same. They still treat it like it's 2018, and that's why they're completely irrelevant. Look, 2018 was 2018. Don't get me wrong, I'm nostalgic for that time. I love that time, but we are now in an era where we need to be more professional. We need to be more upbeat. We need to be more cut up and stuff like that. And if we're not doing that, if we're not presenting our best foot forward, we're not putting our best foot forward, we're just stagnating and we're becoming lazy and we're resting on our laurels. That was the one thing I wanted to always say. It's like, I never want to become the kind of content creator where it's like, well, Pinesap used to make stuff and he used to do stuff, but now he just, rests on what he used to do. That's lame. That's lame. That means that's like Guns N' Roses, like Axl Rose getting fat, right? It's like, he can't sing anymore. It's not Guns N' Roses anymore. Maybe him, but the lights aren't on, right? And you can't treat content that way. You have to constantly be improving. G-Lad said in chat, Laurel or Yanny, right? Laurel, right? You have to adopt a Laurel mindset, or else you're just going to stagnate. And stagnation is the death of any content creator. If you stagnate, it's so over, dude. Like, you should just pack it up. And don't get me wrong, like, people find their groove, and there comes a time where you do kind of stick to that a little bit. But there's a respect in that, right? Like the Nostalgia Critic, for instance. Like, I love the Nostalgia Critic. He's not everyone's cup of tea, but I love him, right? And there is a charm to him kind of keeping his same spirit with his videos. But I wouldn't say at the same time that he's stagnated. He has improved things. He has, gotten better mics or recording cameras or what have you. And it's like, if you're not doing that, you're just failing. Nobody wants to watch like an old streamer, an old cowboy just go live and be like, oh, remember when I used to do stuff or I was the hot new thing? No thanks, dude. That's lame. Many Groypers still in 2020. True. That's true, dude. We gotta kind of get in the right mindset of being more punctual, better, improving ourselves.
Everything this network touches is astroturfed and not genuine. Nothing from him or his benefactors can be trusted or taken seriously. On all levels, him and his people do not have the best interest for Americans. They only serve themselves and the state of Israel. We must root out and expose money interest and foreign lobbies in America if we ever want to be free and put America first.
So real.
Follow Chad Champion on twitter.com.
Yeah, dude, great video from Chad Champion. We love to see it. Oh, yo, there's the stream in the bottom there. Yeah, great video from him, though. I think that's a great cap of kind of... So now you've seen from someone who could present it, clearly, the overall, like, makeup of what Thiel's circle looks like, what Thiel's network looks like. And JD Vance is the forefront of that.